Once upon a time, the world believed India could be pushed, pressured, and dictated to. But that time is gone. Today, the story has changed, and it has changed forever. What once seemed like a one-sided game is now turned into a battle of equals, where every move matters. The very leader who once tried to apply pressure now faces a new reality. Being tough on India is no longer an option. It's a risk he simply cannot afford. Why? Because India has transformed itself into a global force. Its economy is no longer fragile. It is powerful, growing, and influencing every major industry. Its military strength is not just for defense, it is a message to the world. And its voice in international affairs, louder and more respected than ever before. But here's the twist that many overlook. This shift is not just about power. It's about timing, strategy, and leverage. India holds cards that no one else does. Energy routes, technology, and alliances that stretch across continents. The very dynamics that once worked against India now work in its favor. In this video, you will uncover why the balance has shifted, why the rules of the game are no longer the same, and why toughness against India now carries a cost too high to pay. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover here is not only about politics, it's about strength, dignity, and the power to stand tall in a changing world. The world we live in today is not the same world of the past. Power has shifted. Balance has changed. And one of the strongest examples of this shift is India. For decades, it was seen as a country that could be lectured, pressured, and told what to do. But that image no longer fits the reality. India is no longer a country that can be pushed around. It has risen step by step to claim its place among the most powerful nations on earth. The old playbook of dominance doesn't work anymore. Those who once thought they could dictate terms are now forced to pause, rethink, and adjust. This change is not just about politics, it is about influence. India has become a voice that others listen to. It is not standing on the sidelines of global decisions anymore. It is at the center of the conversation. Whether it is climate agreements, trade deals, or security partnerships, India's role has grown too large to ignore. The shift is dramatic. It's like watching a player who was once underestimated step onto the field and change the entire game. The rules no longer favor those who believed they had control. The rules now favor the one who stood firm, endured, and grew stronger with every challenge. One of the most powerful tools driving this shift is India's economy. Numbers tell the story. India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and its market is massive. With over 1 billion people, it is not just a country, it is a marketplace of dreams, ambitions, and opportunities. Every company in the world wants access to it. Every global investor sees its potential, and every nation that hopes to grow its own economy knows it cannot afford to leave India out of the equation. This is where the real leverage begins. For the United States, the reality is clear. Toughness on India is not just a political move, it is a gamble that could cost billions. Trade with India fuels American industries, creates jobs, and opens doors for innovation. Cutting ties or creating friction doesn't weaken India, it hurts the U.S. itself. This is the trap of power dynamics. When two giants are connected by mutual benefit, threats become empty. You can't afford to break what sustains you. You can't afford to push too hard when the other side has the strength to push back. And India is pushing back, not with arrogance, but with confidence. It knows its value. It knows that global corporations are fighting for space in its market. It knows that the future of technology, energy, and trade flows through its decisions. It has become a magnet for investment, a hub for innovation, and a partner that others seek, not because of charity, but because of necessity. This is where true power lies, in being needed, not in being commanded. Think about the ripple effect. When a country of India's size and speed grows, it doesn't just grow for itself. It shifts global supply chains. It redirects investments. It changes the map of opportunity. And that shift weakens the ability of any one country, including the United States, to act tough without paying the price. Every tariff, every sanction, every hostile move now has consequences that can come back home. That is the reality of interdependence. This is why the global image of India matters. It is no longer seen as a nation waiting for approval from others. It is seen as a nation carving its own path, deciding its own policies, and standing tall in the face of pressure. And the world respects that. Respect brings influence. Influence brings leverage. And leverage ensures that no matter who sits in the White House, being tough on India is not just a matter of choice, it's a matter of survival. India's rise has redrawn the global chessboard. It has moved from being a pawn to becoming a powerful player. And in this new game, every decision, every alliance, every economic step carries weight. Those who try to push India now find themselves facing not just a nation, but an idea of independence, growth, and dignity that cannot be crushed. The shift in power is real, and it is permanent. Anyone who tries to ignore it does so at their own risk. When we look at the modern world of defense and security, one truth stands out. Partnerships matter more than ever. No single nation can stand alone in an age where threats are global, complex, and unpredictable. This is where India's role becomes undeniable. The United States has long viewed India as a market for its weapons, a customer to sell aircraft, missiles, and technology to. But that image belongs to the past. India is no longer just a buyer. It is now a strategic partner, a country whose cooperation shapes balance in Asia and beyond. This change did not happen overnight. Over the years, India has built its defense capabilities, invested in homegrown technology, and diversified its partnerships. It buys from Russia, works with France, collaborates with Israel, and still keeps the United States close. This flexibility gives India strength. It is not dependent on one nation, and that independence forces every partner to respect its choices. For America, this means the old days of dictating terms are gone. Today, the U.S. relies on India as much as India relies on the U.S. Military exercises between the two nations happen regularly. Intelligence sharing has increased. Maritime cooperation in the Indo-Pacific has become a pillar of strategy. And beyond hardware, the trust in joint planning and coordination shows that this is no longer a seller-buyer relationship. It is an alliance built on mutual interest. If the United States chooses to be tough, it risks not only losing sales, but weakening its own strategic position in a region where competition with China grows sharper every day. India's importance is not only in defense deals, it is also in the realm of technology and innovation, where the future of power is being decided. India has emerged as a global hub for science research and advanced industries. From artificial intelligence to cybersecurity, from renewable energy to digital infrastructure, India's footprint is growing fast. Companies around the world outsource to India, not just for low cost, but for high quality skill and talent. Millions of engineers, coders, and innovators are shaping the next generation of breakthroughs, and this ecosystem cannot be overlooked. Space is another area where India's rise is impossible to ignore. Missions to the Moon and Mars have shown the world that India can achieve what was once thought impossible for a developing nation. The launch of satellites at record-breaking efficiency has turned India into a space power that even America respects. Global communication networks, weather monitoring, and security systems rely on these advancements. The United States understands that cooperation with India in space is not optional. It is essential. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced digital systems are also areas where India's role is growing. The United States knows that the future of warfare, economy, and society will be shaped by who controls these technologies. Ignoring India would mean ignoring one of the largest pools of talent and innovation in the world. That is not a risk any superpower can afford to take. India has also positioned itself as a leader in cybersecurity and digital governance. With one of the largest populations online, it has created models of digital identity, payment systems, and e-governance that are being studied worldwide. This scale gives India influence over how technology will shape daily life for billions in the future. For America, being aligned with India is a way to ensure access to this growing influence. This partnership is not about charity. It is about necessity. America cannot sideline India because India's role has become too important in both defense and technology. Together, the two nations can counter threats, secure trade rates, and lead global innovation. But if America chooses hostility, it risks isolating itself from a partner that others, China, Russia, Europe, are eager to embrace. The narrative is clear. India has moved beyond the role of a customer. It has built strength in defense, innovation, and space that makes it appear. The United States recognizes this, even if it does not always admit it openly. In a world where alliances decide survival, being tough on India is no longer a sign of power. It is a sign of weakness. That is the reality shaping decisions today. In today's world, no discussion about power and strategy is complete without mentioning China. Its rise has reshaped global politics, economies, and military thinking. For the United States, China is more than just a competitor. It is a direct challenge to influence, security, and leadership. This is where India becomes vital, positioned right next to China with its own growing power. India naturally serves as a counterbalance. The United States knows this. It understands that without India on its side, its efforts to contain China's influence in Asia would be far weaker. This is why toughness toward India comes with a heavy price. Every hostile step against New Delhi risks pushing it closer to Beijing, and that is the last thing Washington wants. India's relationship with China is complex. They share borders, and at times tensions have flared into clashes. Yet India has held its ground, showing that it will not be intimidated. This makes India valuable to the U.S. because while many nations fear confronting China, India already has a history of standing up against it. The U.S. can talk about balance and freedom in the Indo-Pacific, but without India's presence, those words lose weight. India provides not only geographic advantage, but also credibility. It is the partner that gives America's strategy in Asia real substance. But there is another layer to this story. Beyond borders and politics, the world depends on trade and energy. The oceans carry goods worth trillions of dollars, and the routes they travel through determine the stability of global markets. India sits at the heart of these routes, with access to the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and close proximity to key choke points like the Strait of Hormuz and the Malacca Strait. India is not just a passenger in global trade, it is a gatekeeper. Control over these waters means influence over energy supplies. A significant portion of the world's oil and gas flows through regions where India has presence and power. This makes India a natural player in energy security. Nations in the Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia view India as a partner in ensuring safe passage for their exports. For the United States, which relies on stable energy markets to keep its economy strong, India's role here cannot be ignored. Being tough on India risks disrupting this delicate balance, and disruption in energy flows always comes back to hurt the global economy, including America's. This leverage extends beyond oil and gas. India is also becoming a major player in renewable energy. Its push for solar and wind power has created new markets and partnerships that the U.S. wants to be part of. Energy is not just about resources, it is about technology, innovation, and leadership in the future. By aligning with India, the U.S. gains access to new opportunities in clean energy that strengthen both economies. But if it chooses conflict, it risks losing access to these markets while opening the door for other nations, especially China, to step in. Trade routes, too, are about more than ships and cargo. They are about security, piracy, territorial disputes, and military presence all play a role in who controls the seas. India's Navy has grown in strength, making it one of the most capable forces in the region. This gives the U.S. a reliable partner in ensuring open seas, something that lies at the core of global trade. Without India, America would have to bear more responsibility alone, stretching its resources at a time when it already faces challenges in multiple parts of the world. India's leverage is clear. It sits at a geographic crossroad of trade and energy. It has the will to stand up to China. It has the naval power to secure seas. And it has growing influence in both fossil and renewable energy markets. For the United States, ignoring these realities is not an option. The strategy to manage China depends on India. The stability of energy and trade depends on India. And that means being tough on India is not only unwise, it is self-defeating. Politics is not only about international strategy. It is also about domestic influence. And in the United States, one community has quietly grown into a force that leaders cannot ignore. The Indian American community is millions strong, successful in business, technology, medicine, and education. They are one of the most prosperous immigrant groups in the country, and with prosperity comes influence. Their voice in politics is louder than ever before. Campaigns seek their support, leaders visit their events, and parties shape messages with them in mind. No candidate hoping to win power can afford to alienate this community, and that includes the highest office in the land. This reality places a limit on how tough an American president can be toward India. Criticism or hostility toward New Delhi can quickly echo at home, stirring discontent among Indian Americans who see such moves as disrespect toward their heritage. This is not just about emotion, it is about numbers. In key states, their votes matter. In donations, their contributions matter. In public influence, their voices shape narratives. The political cost of angering them can be higher than many realize. This creates a quiet but powerful check on foreign policy. Being too aggressive toward India risks backlash that can hurt election chances, and no leader seeking re-election wants to take that gamble. But the story goes beyond domestic politics. The global image of the United States is always on display. Every action, every speech, every policy is judged by the world. And in today's climate, where respect is as important as power, America must tread carefully. Pressuring India is not the same as pressuring a weaker nation. India has grown into a country that commands respect, and the world acknowledges it. If the U.S. chooses confrontation, it risks looking not strong but desperate. It risks appearing out of touch with a new reality where India is no longer a follower but a leader. Other nations are watching. Smaller countries, often caught between giants, look to India as proof that independence is possible. They see how India negotiates with Russia, works with the Middle East, trades with the West, and still maintains its own course. This inspires them, and it also creates expectations. If America applies pressure and fails to bend India, it exposes its own weakness. It shows the world that its influence is no longer absolute. That kind of perception is damaging, especially when rivals like China and Russia are eager to project America as a declining power. The respect India now holds globally also means that alliances are not so one-sided anymore. When India speaks, others listen. From Africa to Southeast Asia, leaders seek cooperation with New Delhi. From the European Union to Latin America, partnerships are growing. This global acceptance is a shield. It makes it harder for any country, including the United States, to act tough without consequences. To stand against India now is to risk isolation, because many nations would rather side with India than watch it be pushed around. For America, which prides itself on being the face of democracy and partnership, such an image would be damaging. It would raise questions: why pressure a nation that represents independence, resilience, and strength? Why attack a partner that stands tall against common threats? The answers would not help America's standing. Instead, they would highlight the contradictions in its approach. Respect is earned, and in the eyes of the world, India has earned it. The combination of domestic influence and global respect places India in a unique position. At home, leaders know they cannot ignore the voice of Indian Americans. Abroad, they know they cannot afford to lose face by being seen as hostile toward a respected power. These two forces act together, shaping decisions in ways that are subtle but undeniable. Toughness toward India may sound like a show of strength, but in reality it risks weakness both inside the country and across the globe. This is the quiet truth that defines strategy today. India has reached a stage where it no longer needs to wait for approval from the West. It makes its own choices, takes its own path, and protects its own interests with confidence. This independence is not just political, it is strategic. The world has watched India buy oil from Russia despite pressure from America and Europe. It has seen India deepen ties with the Middle East, building strong energy partnerships and investing in long-term cooperation. At the same time, India still maintains close relations with Washington, engaging in defense, technology, and trade. This balance shows a clear truth. India no longer blindly follows anyone. It walks its own road, and that road has made it stronger. This independent stance is important because it demonstrates that true power lies in choice. India has shown that it can stand with the West when it suits its interests, but it will not abandon relationships that benefit its economy or security. Instead of bowing to pressure, it calculates, it decides, and it acts in its own favor. This is a kind of leadership that the world respects because it is not rooted in fear. It is rooted in confidence. And when a nation of more than 1 billion people acts with confidence, the impact is global. Look at the way India balances relationships. On one side, it joins hands with America in military exercises, tech partnerships, and space missions. On another side, it imports energy from Russia because it knows cheap and reliable oil is vital for growth. At the same time, it strengthens trade and security ties with countries in the Gulf, ensuring stability in its energy supply. This ability to manage multiple partnerships without collapsing under pressure makes India unique. Few nations can pull this off. Many are forced to pick sides, but India has proven that choosing independence can be more powerful than choosing loyalty. This stance sends a message not only to the great powers, but also to smaller nations. Around the world, there are countries that feel trapped between giants, afraid of choosing a side, afraid of losing support. India's example tells them something different. It tells them that survival is not about obedience, it is about strength. If India can stand tall against pressure, so can they. If India can make independent choices, so can they. This message is powerful because it breaks the myth that small nations must always bend to the will of stronger ones. In Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, many leaders see India as a role model. They see how it maintains sovereignty while still engaging with global powers. They see how it protects its economy while also building alliances. And they realize that the same path might be possible for them. This inspiration is a form of influence that cannot be bought or forced. It is earned through example. India has become that example. The symbolism is strong. A country that was once seen as developing, once dependent on aid and outside support, is now setting its own terms in the global arena. This transformation proves that nations do not have to remain under the shadow of larger powers forever. They can rise step by step until they create their own space. For smaller nations, this is a message of hope. It says you can build your own strength, you can resist pressure, you can stand with dignity. India's independent stance also changes the way the world views leadership. True leadership is not about siding with the strongest. It is about making decisions that protect your people, your economy, and your future. That is exactly what India is doing. By buying oil where it chooses, by trading with partners it trusts, and by keeping strong ties with America while refusing to bow down, India shows what self-reliance looks like in the modern world. The message spreads far and wide. Independence is possible, respect is possible, and dignity is possible, even for nations that were once underestimated. India has proven it with action, and the world is watching closely. This is the ripple effect of confidence, the quiet power of standing tall, and the lasting symbol that others will continue to follow. Trump's dilemma is not a simple one. It is a puzzle with no easy solution, a situation where every choice carries a cost. On one side, there is the urge to appear strong, to project toughness, to show the world that America never bends. On the other side, there is the reality of India's rise, a reality that cannot be denied, a reality that makes pressure more dangerous than productive. If he goes tough, America loses leverage, money, and influence. If he stays friendly, India gains more ground, more respect, and more power. Either way, the advantage rests with New Delhi. This dilemma begins with economics. Toughness against India could mean tariffs, restrictions, or political pressure. But each of these measures risks harming American businesses that depend on India's vast market. Technology companies rely on Indian talent. Energy companies benefit from cooperation. Investors see India as a growth engine. Punishing India would not weaken it. It would weaken the very industries America depends on to stay competitive. Trump knows this. His advisors know it too. A hostile move would backfire, and in politics, backfiring is costly. Then there is the matter of strategy. The United States cannot afford to alienate India when China is rising as a global rival. In Asia, India is the only country with the size, location, and influence to balance Beijing's power. If America decides to apply pressure, it risks driving India closer to Russia or even into pragmatic deals with China that would undo years of effort spent building trust. The result would be a weaker American position in the region, something no leader wants to explain to the world. Trump is caught between the image of toughness and the need for partnership. Friendliness, however, brings its own set of challenges. Every time America embraces India, it strengthens India's confidence in global standing. Trade partnerships grow, defense ties deepen, and India's voice in international affairs becomes louder. The more it rises, the more independent it becomes. And the more independent it becomes, the harder it is for the United States to influence its choices. This means that while friendliness avoids conflict, it also accelerates India's climb. For a leader who prides himself on control, this can feel like losing ground. The dilemma also plays out in domestic politics. Being tough might satisfy a section of the American public that likes the sound of strength, but it risks angering Indian Americans, a wealthy and influential community. Staying friendly might secure their support, but it can also open critics to accuse Trump of being soft. Either path invites attack from opponents, and in the world of politics, perception is as important as results. Beyond economics and politics, there is the question of image. Trump's style is built on projecting dominance. But India's position makes it difficult to dominate without consequences. A failed attempt at pressure would weaken his image on the global stage. At the same time, openly embracing India can create the appearance that America is adjusting to a new order, where it is no longer the unquestioned leader. The two is a difficult picture to manage. This is the trap of modern power dynamics. The world has changed, and so has India. It is not the India of the past, waiting for instructions or approval. It is the India of today, confident, independent, and respected. This creates a dilemma for Trump that cannot be solved by threats or handshakes alone. The truth is that India holds the advantage no matter what. If America plays tough, it risks losing. If it plays friendly, it risks giving away ground. And in this game, the one who forces the other to choose between two costly paths is always the one holding the upper hand. India's rise is unstoppable. The days when it could be pressured or dictated to are long gone. Now it stands as a nation that shapes conversations, not one that follows them. Trump's dilemma is just one example of how the world must adjust to this new reality. The United States and every global power knows that ignoring India or trying to play tough will only backfire. This is not just about politics, it's about a new balance of power in the world. And whether one accepts it or not, India is now at the center of it. If this message inspired you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful insights and motivation.